Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams and tonight is July the 27th. Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. There's a reason we call it that. It's because that's what I stand by. Do I always get it right? No. Unfortunately, there's a lot in our midst that don't act under those three values, and to me that's sad. I'll be covering a minimal amount of that later on in the show, but it's reaching proportions that's affecting the members. I can sense that, and I understand that. It's felt heavily by me also. When I started this journey as a radio show host, which is 4 years on Monday, we'll be doing a bit of a review of that in the second hour. I thought we had a unified team. Lots of researchers doing their best to get to the bottom of the truth and expose the criminality amongst us. And yes, you expected the cabal to be infiltrated, because that's what they do. They employ armies of teams in all walks of life to distract, disrupt, divide and conquer. I think we're all saddened at the depth of it, and it really is at times it puts everyone on a downer, because there's people we've all followed, myself included, who suddenly have gone by the wayside, proven to be not who they claim to be, and it's deflating. It's deflating for myself, and it's deflating for all the listeners also. You've invested a lot of energy and your time in certain individuals, only to find out that they're working for the other side. But it's a lesson in discernment. Is all their material bogus? No. Everyone has to include elements of truth. Otherwise they can't hook you in. We all know the truth ourselves without asking me or the other radio show hosts. We all know the truth within. But there's one massive word that we cannot leave out. It's trust. Some of the things that we've covered in this show is learning to trust yourself. Let go of the masks of illusion we all have carried around with us all our lives. And I said last week about how can we demand the truth external of us if we won't face the truth internally. Too many of us, and I include myself in all of this, I'm not in any way, shape or form any different. We don't trust our intuition. Your intuition tells you certain things don't feel right. That's the resonant frequency that you and your higher self is telling you something's not right here. But many don't have the confidence to act on their intuition. The ones that do see quicker. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to prove that intuition right. Mr. Keenan was the prime example, for me anyway, because I supported Neil Keenan. I'll make no bones about that. But my intuition was screaming no. And I asked Drake a number of times to look at Mr. Keenan's information starting in November of 2013. Of course, it all ended in May of 16, so it was near 2.5 years. But my intuition was telling me, and I trusted Drake, and Drake trusted him, and that's where it leads you astray. Putting your trust in people that haven't been, whose discernment is not good at best. And ultimately this show is about all of us learning to trust ourselves. And not just to do with the show and the intel and the news and all this stuff. It's in general. What is your body telling you? Yes, it may tell you when you're hungry and you'll go and eat. And it may tell you when you're tired and you'll go and sleep. It's also telling you lots of other things during the day, which we all ignore. Why is that? Because society has programmed all of us in a way where everything is outside of ourselves. Everything's external. We become victims because of external issues, whilst ignoring our role we played in it. And yes, there's various specifics to do with that. Not general, it's just a generalising of it, not picking points. The alternative media, which I will cover later, is a classic example of victim saviour programs. ET's coming to save us, RVs are saving us, the golden age, the new age. But this show host kept telling you it was you. Always was. And so we had an incident on the page this week, which I'm going to cover gently later on. And that then sets people into another spiral of where does it all end with all the bullshittery. And I fully understand that. I can sense it, I can feel it. But we can't keep ignoring the non-truth. And like I said, I find it very, very sad that the depth of the alternative media is almost given its percentage on a par with the cabal. It's almost a mirror of the control, of the interconnectedness, of the deceit, the lies, the programs, the scams. It's all there. And I say this person's saddened by it all. I have no doubt most of you are also, and are quite frankly sick of it, and I understand all that as well. Why can't we all just come together? Well, we've tried. I tried to bring all the legal people together 2 years ago. All three of them refused to work with the other two. And this is what we're dealing with. I brought in Benjamin Fulford on the Cosmic Voice, even though he didn't want to speak to the owner of the show, to try and make some unity. But ultimately others pull strings in the hidden. It's a bit like the government. You have characters in there largely who are frauds, and some even worse. But ultimately it's not them that make the decisions. Corey Good incident. Is he narrating the script? No. It's the string pullers, like the shadow government. Is Trump writing the script? Is Obama writing the script? Idiot Bush is incapable of writing the script before him. And Clinton was too busy playing with cigars and putting bodily fluids on some of the staffers' dresses, because they're irrelevant. It's the string pullers. So we're going to go into the show. We've got a little bit of news. To be quite honest, I've struggled with the impetus of this week's show. There's not much intel, I'll tell you that for now. Some of it can't be outed, and a lot of it is on lockdown at the moment for various reasons. But yeah, everyone has weeks where they're up and weeks where they're down. And this week I feel down. I feel saddened by the behaviour of certain people. And it wasn't until yesterday. Normally the show starts Friday morning, for me anyway, preparing me for the following Thursday. And you think, is it worth carrying on? Because we all go through these phases, the listeners as well. Why should I listen to him every 3 hours when it appears my life doesn't change? And I understand that fully. And then I was driving to work yesterday, and on every corner was people begging for money, homeless. And you think, is my life really that shitty compared to theirs? It's all about perspective, isn't it? We in America and Britain, Europe, think, oh, we're struggling. But we really don't know struggle when you compare it to the Africans. Large parts of India, large parts of China. Our version of struggles because we can't afford the latest phone or cable or whatever. The latest technology, which is not available to well over 50% of this planet. Doesn't make us feel any better, because we're used to a certain lifestyle. But that certain lifestyle has come at a massive cost to us. We've lost the balance between nature, which a lot of these people have. Certainly the Africans, they have no option but to live off the land. And we've lost tune with ourselves. And this has been the core of this show since it left Cosmic Voice, is getting us all back within ourselves too much of life is external. People make you unhappy. That's external. You may have won the lottery or the equivalent, but somebody comes along and abuses you and ruins your whole day. Why do we allow that? Why do we allow others to dictate whether we should be happy or not? Because we do. Why do we allow others to make us angry or frustrated? When your own life is your choice. Why do we allow people to vampire energy off us? We've all met them. Woe is me. I am the victim. I don't have any luck. I'm always sick. I'm always this. I'm always that. And some people, it's through misfortune. But are they going to continue to play on that and manifest that reality? Because that's all their self-worth. Or are you going to stand up and go, you know what? I have value. I have purpose. I'm not allowing or going to allow, to the best of my ability, others to dictate how I feel during the day. I hope that helped. Right, let's get into some of the news. I'm going to kind of skip over some of it. I don't know about you. I'm going to mention a little bit more now. But the news is just like a drone in the background to me. It has been over the past month or so. Like it doesn't really exist. Anyone else feeling that way? There's some extraordinary things coming out, but it doesn't have the same effect. It's a case of, oh well. It's like we're leaving things behind. That may well be the case. Something to ponder on. As forecasted in a show about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks now, Mr. Spicer has now departed his post, and no doubt never to be seen again, for various reasons. As also forecast, Mr. Kushner is in big trouble and will stay in big trouble, as I understand it. Trump Jr. also. And also this week, Rothschilds are predicting New World Order in 2 years now. I predict, and given a lot of the predictions on this show has been right more than others, including the mainstream media, I predict he and they won't be around to see it fail in 2 years' time. Bring it on, Mr. Rothschild. Clown. Apologies for the people who don't like me gulping water. But some voice does get dry speaking for 3 hours. Anyway, let's get crack on. Of course, we reported about the fun and games in the Philippines. Islamic State, Aka Langley, playing fun and games over there, and it's all to do with the gold again. certain gold was placed there a long time ago, and they think they can access it. No, they won't. They do not have the resonance to do so. So legislators on the ongoing war in the Philippines, because the Islamic State have been occupying parts of Marawi, a city in the south, since May. Now, of course, this is not a couple of insurgents. This was a full-scale operation. It's not even a coastal city. So it's not as if you can drop a few boats here and there and a few armed people. This was well into Philippines. And so this was a major military operation. It can only be done by the powers that be. Or were. And Mr. Duterte has voted overwhelmingly to extend martial law to deal with the Islamist insurgency in the restive island of Mindanao. And he said the extension was necessary to crush the insurgency, but his critics have said it's part of a wider power grab. Yes, I wonder who the critics are and who pays them. Mindanao is home to a number of Muslim rebel groups seeking more autonomy, and martial law allows the use of the military to enforce law and the detention of people without charge for long periods. Notice how they'll use the fear factor to influence the people. This has been ongoing by certain agencies in this country, or in many countries, for many decades. And it's now become a sensitive issue in the Philippines, where martial law was imposed by the late dictator Fernando Marcos for much of his rule, and a previously imposed 60-day martial rule was due to expire on Saturday and is now being extended until December the 31st this year. Hopefully Mr. Duterte, like Iran, will expose who those people are occupying that city and why. Now, this came up last week, and I don't think we're going to hear the end of this. It's going to cause a major storm, both politically and publicly. But Mr. Trump has insisted that he has the complete power to pardon people amid reports he's considering presidential pardons for family members, aides, and even himself. This is another fallout from the Russian issue. And the Democratic Party has called reports that Mr. Trump is acting extremely disturbing, and US authorities are probing possible collusion between the Trump team and Russia. Intelligence agencies think Russia tried to help Mr. Trump to power. Russia denies this, and the president says there was no collusion. Now, the Washington Post has chimed in and reported on Thursday that Mr. Trump and his team are looking at ways to pardon people close to him. Presidents can pardon people before guilt is established, or even before the person is charged with a crime. Interesting. Funny how the law applies differently to those people. Senator Mark Warner, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee, said pardoning any individuals who may have been involved would be crossing a fundamental line. Really? And they forget that his party people pardoned others in the past. This is should be taken out of. Unfortunately, they own and control all levels, but ultimately it should be something to do with the people, whether certain individuals should be pardoned or not. You know, we all make mistakes in life. We all do wrong things, but what is apparently been forgotten in all this is the leader of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, was doing deals, land deals, with American resources, and has been over a long period of time. Where's the collusion charges for her and her team? That's a lot of what Oregon was about, with the standoff over the land, BLM. Is they had, or Clinton had, sold all the resources to be mined from that land, particularly the uranium, to Russia. Obama had signed away all, Obama and Clinton had signed away all American resources over to the bogus UN. And then he lost the one-horse race election. Oops. And this is kind of what's going on, and I think this is kind of why people are getting a bit fed up with it all, because, you know, Trump's been in 6 months and they're still playing childish games. He said, she said, no, it was his fault, no, it was their fault, no, they're talking to Russia, you're not allowed to talk to Russia. You know, don't talk to that kid. It's childish. And these people are supposed to be representing our country. Meanwhile, poverty increases, job losses increase, foreclosures increase, veterans come back with more and more diseases, illnesses, mental health issues. The bar system carries on their special brand of fraud and criminality. After 6 months, we should have had enough of he said, she said, and more of you're under arrest. You're under arrest, and you're under arrest whether you like it or you don't. That's what the public want to see. John McCain decides to turn up. Was it Mr. McCain? Remains to be seen. Being happy clapped like a bunch of performance seals because he's got an illness. That clown committed treason to this country. Why is he even in that building? Beggars belief. Now this is a story from England, and it's all again to do with who controls the children, the parents or the state. And staff at Great Ormond Street Hospital, which is one of the big hospitals in the UK, have received death threats over the treatment of baby Charlie Gard. The hospital said police had been called after families were harassed and unacceptable behaviour was recorded in the hospital. Now, the hospital is involved in a legal battle to remove life support from the 11-month-old baby who has a rare genetic disorder. The hospital is in a legal battle to remove the life support from an 11-month-old baby. Who made them God? And why did we allow it? Parents not have a say? Appears not, does it? Again, why have we allowed this to go this far? Now, the parents have lost a succession of court cases to overturn the hospital's decision that it would be in the best interest of the child to be allowed to die with dignity. And the latest court battle involves new testimony from a US neurologist who has visited the baby Charlie in hospital to decide whether he should travel to America for therapy. Now, Charlie's parents want to take him to New York for experimental treatment, which the US doctor said might give him a 10% chance of improving his health. Well, 10% is better than none. And these people in hospitals forget that they have their own children. What if their child was in that hospital? Would they accept the hospital's choice that we're just going to switch off the machine when there's a 10% chance of Charlie improving with experimental treatment? It's madness, I tell you, how far we've allowed things to go. Hospitals telling you what you can do with your child, schools telling you what you can do with your child, governments telling you what you can do and you can't do with your child, and religion. So now we are going to go to Israel. More fun and games there. Whilst the world is focused on North Korea, Iran and other things, the Zionist regime continues to play fun and games whilst the media is distracted. They always do it. If there's a big incident somewhere else around the world, false flag in London, you can guarantee within 28 to 48 hours that Israelis will get the jets out and bomb one particular country or village into oblivion, because the world's focused on something else, you see. So Israel is now deciding to beef up its military presence in the West Bank following an alleged stabbing attack which left 3 Israelis dead and 1 injured. Now, if that took place and that's real, I'm not condoning that type of behaviour and never will. But it's funny that Israel decides to beef up the military in the West Bank when the two peoples are now closer than they ever were. Demonstrations on both sides of the wall, talking about 2 states. Of course, the Zionists don't want that, do they? And is it beyond the realms of possibility that this was a staged event? Look, we told you, those Palestinians, they're all nasty, they all want to kill us. It's how they work and how they operate, sadly. So the assault coincides with escalating tensions, which is a lie, because there's been a lot of demonstrations over the 2 states and joining together over the contested sacred site in Jerusalem. Now, this particular show host has warned about an event at that sacred site for the last 4 years. Because, make no mistake, they will use that site and blow it into oblivion to achieve what they want to do. That's how those clowns operate. The caliphate, for those who don't understand it, do research on the caliphate and see how far it went, and then look at the countries inside of the caliphate and the countries under threat of attack. You might see a picture developing. So following the attack in the West Bank settlement of Halamish, Israel increased its security alert level and dispatched thousands of additional troops to the area. This was Haaretz reporting, citing an IDF official. The attack occurred last Friday night when a 20-year-old Palestinian identified as Omar al-Bed got into an Israeli household in the settlement, killing 3 and wounding 1. The attacker was subsequently shot by a neighbour who happened to be a vacationing Israeli soldier, according to the IDF statement. Okay. You can read between the lines yourself. This is what took place 2 months ago, again in Israel, because it will appear to be a common theme. And a police spokesman told the Times of Israel that the girl arrived from Sultan Suleiman Street towards the steps of the Damascus Gate, and she approached a police and border guard force stationed in the area. Allegedly, she took out a knife. See the familiarity? And while screaming Allahu Akbar, and tried to attack them. Eyewitnesses cited, however, claim the contrary. One of the soldiers started to shout, "Knife, knife," and moments after that, about 5 soldiers opened fire at her from every direction. The unnamed eyewitness reported, along with another witness sourced by this particular paper, said the girl was first hit in the chest and fell to the ground, but Israeli soldiers continued to fire in her back. No officers were injured, the police said, and Damascus Gate is a main entrance to Jerusalem's old city and has been the site of violence between Palestinians and Israeli forces. It's just not Israeli people. Witnesses in the area claim the girl never had a knife, and one of the soldiers placed it there after the shooting. So now you see why I read the 2 stories together. They're just using incidents of somebody close to military and opening fire and blaming on Muslims. They always use the term Allahu Akbar, which, bizarrely enough, given what we have on our seal and the dollar, "In God we trust." Allahu Akbar is "God is great." What's so bad about that? Why is that term being used to denigrate Muslims? We've covered the word magic before. So the Muslims think God is great. But isn't that what it says in the pledge and on the seal? "In God we trust," or paraphrasing. Why is it different? Divide and conquer. Now, sanctions have been put in place this week against Russia. New anti-Russian sanctions, which really don't make sense. But this is proving to me that the Nazis, aka NATO, elements are running this government. Because it's those same people that are asking or demanding money from all countries to fund NATO. in a ridiculous standoff with Russia, except it's a one-man standoff as Russia's standing there laughing at them. But Moscow has said it will retaliate against the US for the expected adoption of new anti-Russian sanctions which are viewed in Russia as senseless and destructive. The Russian Deputy Foreign Minister said, "It can now be said now that the news is very sad from the perspective of Russian-American relations and the perspectives of their development. It is no less disheartening from the point of view of international law and international trade relations," he said. "The attitude to this law will be formed on the basis of a thorough analysis, and the decision on how to respond will certainly be taken by the head of state, President Putin. The new round of sanctions by Washington is equally dreadful from the point of view of international law and international trade relations. What is happening defies common sense." I agree. Those people that operate or pull the strings in this country lack any shred of common sense whatsoever. CIA Director Mike Pompeo has been banging war drums this week. Now he's decided that China is the threat rather than Russia or Iran as the biggest threat to America's dominant position in the world. Why do we have to be dominant? Why do we have to be the big bully boy of the world? First in everything? Just that one line is enough for me to say that that person should be removed. Because he's clearly not acting on behalf of the people. That type of rhetoric that America has to be the be-all and end-all of everything is why nobody likes us. Aren't they supposed to be diplomatic? Do they not understand the term diplomatic? So, he thinks that China is a threat to America's dominant position in the world. Beijing merited its position on the US spymaster's threat list due to its stronger economy and population, he said. So we are spending, or they are spending all our dollars on taxes because you've got a few shitbags in the CIA who are frightened that Russia's got and China have got stronger economies and bigger populations. So we're paying for their cowardice. That's basically what he's just said. And we want to be the biggest bully. No, we don't, Mr. Pompeo. We want peaceful lives with prosperity for all. Not goose-stepping around the world being number one. Competition again. Competition to me is for sport, not for countries or resources. So he went on speaking to the Washington Free Beacon. Pompeo marked terrorism and North Korea as the biggest short-term threats to US security interests, but selected China, Russia and Iran as mid to long-term concerns. They have a real economy that they have built. Yes. Why have they built it, Mr. Pompeo? Because they've invested in their country and technology, whilst we have invested in weaponry and stealing other countries' resources. That's why they have an economy and we don't. And until we, in this country, get off our pedestal, which is an illusion in itself, and invest in our country and our people, then we're always going to be lagging behind virtually most of the strong countries in the G20. That's the reality. They have a real economy they have built, unlike China that lives and dies on how many barrels of oil they can pluck out of the ground. Pot, kettle and black, Mr. Pompeo. Really? Russia's stronger in gas, not oil. Oops. And Iran, that is similarly very single sector derivative and not to scale of China's population wise, whatever he meant by that. I'm sure he understood that term, but I didn't. He added that Beijing's defense strategy is based on confronting the US and its capabilities. I don't recall seeing Chinese ships in the Gulf of Mexico or in New York or along the East Coast or along the West Coast for that matter. But we've got lots of warships, battleships in the South China Sea. It's called South China Sea for a reason, because it belongs to China, not the US. And he went on, they are probably trying to either to steal our stuff or make sure they can defeat it. Is this guy straight out of kindergarten? They are probably trying to either steal our stuff or make sure they can defeat it. It's like child's talk. Unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. And no wonder this country is collapsing with clans like that as appointees in official, in inverted commas, positions. He went on, I think it's very clear when they think about their place in the world. They measure their success in placing themselves in the world where they want to be, vis-a-vis the United States, and not as against anyone else. Again, childlike comparisons. My stick's bigger than yours, my ball's better than yours. I mean, why are we appointing these people? And we wonder why we've got strife all around the world with clans like that. You get more sense out of someone from the 3rd grade. The director declined to comment on reports that since 2012 China has pivoted its espionage offensively in the United States, but said the Chinese effort was an active campaign. Doesn't surprise me. Why wouldn't it? We've got agents and bases littered in every country. Nuclear weapons. We can have them, but Iran and North Korea are not allowed. Says who? One big mess. Where are we for time? More fun and games in Sweden. This may have been settled since I propped it up for the show, but apparently the whole Swedish government is potentially about to resign over certain things ongoing to do with an IT leak scandal. Sound familiar? So, basically it's come out and the situation has suddenly backed the current government in Sweden into a corner to the point that they are considering all resigning. Wouldn't it be fun if every government resigned overnight and the people started filling the positions with common sense and not kindergarten rhetoric? Our country's better than your country. It literally boggles the mind and is not befitting of representing the people of this country. Just not. Right, we're going to have a music break and we'll be back with some more, a small piece of intel and some op-ed pieces. What can we have? Let's try this one. Hi all and welcome back to the second hour. I'm just a simple man. Yep. I think we all wish the world was simpler. It can be that way. It's never meant to be this complex, this difficult, this much strife or struggle. That's the whims of the few. Freedom is the only thing that matters to me, as the song said. It should be for us all. Too many fall for the distractions and fun and games and the drama, and too many create it. Of course, we had some this week on the page for the first time since the opening weeks of THI. Largely, it was nothing to do with myself, but I will step in and support people I care about when people are making quite frankly extraordinary and nasty allegations that have no foundation of truth whatsoever. I will not sit back and watch people, so-called enlightened people, who seem to think they're higher than everybody else, ridicule or demean or put down or dismiss any of our members. That's when I step in. A lot of people like this show. They like what I have to say. It's always balanced. I give people an opportunity of all learning levels to get a grasp of some very, at times, convoluted and complex theories and beliefs. Scientific stuff that's beyond most of us. The idea of it is so we all get a chance to understand what's going on. It's like the legal bullshittery. Very few of us have a clue. But we're not meant to. So when someone in the alternative media comes along and starts firing out a whole heap of programmed data, some of which is interesting, a lot of which is correct, but suddenly it starts to change. I notice changes in patterns. I've said this before on the show. Now, we offered org help to deal with that particular change, and he refused it and then threw it in our face. But the problem with org is twofold. And one has to consider how somebody can allegedly go on the internet for a whole 24 hours typing at 90 to 100 words a minute. It has been timed. Who has the ability to type at 90 to 100 words a minute for 24 hours a day? Does that person not sleep? Who has the ability to put out whole books on practically a daily basis? Something you need to consider, what I've just said there. Because this is largely what we're dealing with org. I spoke to him 2 years ago. Well, I texted with him. I never ever got the chance to speak because he always pulled out. I have many suspicions as to why. He always blames the other person, but it's always org that pulls out. And asked him to start structuring what he's putting out, because a lot of it, the bits that I skipped over, seem to resonate in parts, not in all, until recently, when a whole lot of it went sideways. Now, like I said, we offered to help, but he threw it in our face. But org said something in an interview with Roger Ramsauer. Yes, that Mr. Ramsauer, aka Emma Gold, aka Corey Agent, back in May of 2016. And there's his opening section of that interview, so you don't have to go too far into it, you only have to go 40 seconds, where org speaks for about 17 seconds and says, I tried to do structure, but it messes with my head. I prefer to remain in the tag cloud. And when I heard that, I didn't want org tellers on my show. For those of you who want the information breaking down, tag cloud is AI. Go and look at the video yourself. It's less than 40 seconds in. I don't want to do structure, it messes with my head. I prefer to stay in the tag cloud. Can AI type at 90 to 100 words a minute, 24 hours a day? Make your own connections. I was disappointed with Lily Earthling, because she's defended org when he continued to denigrate our members, dismissing them as stupid. I'm far from stupid, Org. And there's many intelligent people in this group. But if they're all telling you the same thing, we're not being given a chance to process it. What point is there spitting out volumes per day? It's not as if you're describing a nice, easy subject. You're talking, temporal and all this stuff. These are terms, quantum temporals. You ask a whole football stadium, do they understand what quantum temporal is alone? And you're not going to get many speakers back. And yet you're expecting people to grasp 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages a day. It's not possible. People like this show. Why? Because I break it down. And the reason I break it down is so people have a chance to understand what is being said. The more you break stuff down, also exposes the information for what it is in its raw form. The way to hide mistruths and lies is to make it convoluted and complex. But Org said he didn't want to do structure, and you see the evidence. Now, Org has some extraordinary knowledge. There's no doubt about that. But by refusing it to condense it into bite-sized chunks so that all people, Org and Lily, all people can have a chance to understand knowledge. This has been the greatest crime on this planet, is that we've all been denied knowledge. And just because certain few have been given alleged, in some points, downloads, doesn't give them the right to lord it over everybody else, like I know and you don't. And if you don't get it the way I put it out, tough shit. No. That's not enlightening, and certainly not love and light, and certainly not all-inclusive. But I will not tolerate condescension, ridicule, demeaning, dismissive and elitist attitudes being portrayed and demonstrated against our members, as it was this week, from anyone. I don't care who you are. No one gets removed from our group without several warnings, and Org was warned several times to quit it. Some of them on the post, some of them in private. But he continued to abuse the members and in essence abuse himself. No one ever learns anything being taught by being spoken to in that tone manner and expect them to learn and be receptive to you. It's just not the way to be, Org. So you can go ahead and call and make extraordinary allegations about Randy Morgan's. That has no validity whatsoever. Saying I'm in the programs, yeah, right. And then asking me what my classification is. You spent 5 minutes telling me I was this, this and this, and then asked me what my classification is. My classification is freedom for all. Org. Top and bottom line. Final thing on that, and this is as I understand it. There's a lot of things that I've never put out on the shows because, for various reasons, I'd rather not go into. A lot of knowledge. It's all about timing. It also plays into safety, both for myself, people around me, and others. But what I understand about Org's material is Org admits himself he's a clone, and admits himself he's in the programs. And Shane, the runer, tried to help him. Randy tried to help him. I tried to help him. Shane turned around and said to him, "Do you not think they lied to us in the programs also, Org?" Because what Org is putting out is basically 6 timelines, 6 loops rolled into one, and then spun around like a roulette wheel and see how it comes out. Parts of different loops, parts of different timelines, and then it's presented to the public, and the public then can't make head or tail of it. Just the reason is it's not a correct narrative. It doesn't apply to the now. It's not our timeline. We're not in the loop. We're not going back into the loop. We're not on tribunal. That's all instilled programming. And this is why I said on the page, the people who've been in the programs are a liability to the truth. It's not an attack on those people, though some people take it that way as they go into victimhood mode. No, they don't know whether what they've experienced or been told is the truth or not, because the brain has been spliced into so many different pieces. They don't know what's real and what's not. Duncan O'Finian, the reason I admire that man is that he's honest. He tells you, we work for the bad guys. Don't be glorifying us. All of these super soldiers, the programmers. Do I have empathy for all of them? Absolutely. It's horrific. Part of the narrative I do in the background is about ending those programs. And quickly. Because the damage it's done is on a par with what they've done with children. Because people don't realise how far it's gone. They just think it just happens in a few little underground military bases here and there. Oh no. It starts at school. In school. Programming. Plucking children who have different abilities. Testing them. It's an epidemic in this country. And if you don't comply, they have methods. So then you get some people who do their inner work and start breaking down the programs. And again, I would trust Duncan Finian's word because he's been in them and he's honest. He says, don't believe for 1 minute you can break all the programs down, because you can't. His words. I may ask him to come on a show soon. Because, like the Sfarley material, They create alters. So you've got one alter comes forward at a certain time to test the individual. Alter A suddenly realizes they were in programs and saw things. I'm going to tell the public. Fine. Alter B comes along in the same vessel. That counteracts the first information. So the individual themselves, who are being operated by an AI alter, and the alter, don't know what's real and what's not. And that is the harsh truth and reality of it. It's why I've stayed away from the super soldiers, apart from listening to Duncan. I met the man in Awake and Aware 2011. It was kind of new information for me at that time. I was aware of them, but he spelt it out, including his role in it. Not just blamed others. His role in it. And those of you who listen to him will tell you he hates the term super soldier because it's glorifying it. Nobody can even begin to comprehend some of the methods. Yes, we heard about it in this Farley stuff that those people from children went through. They don't know right from wrong because the brain is not in control of what they really know as real and what's not. And I have a lot of empathy for all of them, but I'm not having somebody being given license to behave in the manner to our members the way they all did this week. I said to you last week, Org, get help. Right, where do we go next? It's gone on a bit longer than I intended, but I need to explain the background to it all. Okay. Yeah. The alternative media, I kind of touched on this briefly in the opening piece. But the alternative media is like the Ouroboros. It's eating itself away. The snakes chewing both ends. Like the cabal. Same thing. The cabal is eating itself away. Factions infighting is rampant. They're all hiring hit squads to take each other out. But the alternative media is like a mirror image of it, because partly it's run by the same people. A cesspool of agency-driven narrative, trolls, government and agency shills, thieves of the money types, energy vampires, egotistical self-aggrandizers, and thieves of the truth. Of course, this week we've had Heather Ann Chushy Giraffe arrested. I exposed her last week and I exposed her 4 years ago. We also got Winston Strout facing jail for fraud. Sean David Morton guilty of fraud, stealing money from alternative media members And it also involves other headliners in the alternative media, both complicit with Mr. Morton and some who were scammed themselves. That's the hidden story of Sean David Morton. Stanley Romanek this week, allegedly, at this point, is facing child porn charges. Not proven yet. It may be a setup. Rumours of Cindy K. Courier. I know her website has been shut down, but she'll face the same as Heather and Chushy Giraffe, because they're scamming people. New boss, same as the old boss. Because the Vatican, in essence, has lost control, and the IMF, of the birth certificate issue, because they're not sovereign anymore. They, at this point, possibly employed others to take up the baton. So Miss Giraffe was arrested, and then I find out Heather Giraffe is an editor for Stillness in the Storm. Oops. Stillness in the Storm is Corey's sidekick, promoter Justin Deschamps, who Randy covered more than I did recently. See how it's all interconnected? It goes deeper, way deeper. So Heather Ann Tucci Giraffe, OPPT trustee. So she's still using that term, even though she said it's not legit anymore, which is rubbish. And a Treasury Direct Account Usage, TDA as it's been called, which is more of bullshit that's going to get people arrested. And I'd like to thank Anna von Reitz for giving us the full description on that, and also the foundation people. No one has been paid out, despite what they're telling you on the internet. They're trying to set you up. And personally, I hope Miss Giraffe gets detained indefinitely. And others that work with her. So the nature of her arrest was peculiar, and the report said it could be an effort on the part of the shadow government to make an example of a rather public figure who is advocating the use of TDAs. Not quite. Fugitive of justice was the report. Heather is in jail till at least Monday. And then just when you thought it's how interconnected it is, along comes a blogger by the name of Neil Wolfe. Some of you will remember him in CV. So was at the courtroom jail Wednesday morning, reporting back on all things Heather, part of the team. For people who don't know, though people in the group who will remember, Neil Wolfe was active along with Neil Keenan in trying to do their best to make non-existent mud stick against me in May and June last year. Apparently all their background checks against me came up with nothing. Oops. So then they started making fabrications, Wolfe and Keenan. Not a surprise. Now, in the particular blog update, there was also mentions of Keenan and the White Dragon Society. See how the web and internet connectedness increases. So Ms. Courier, who was told to quit it by myself 4 years ago and was thrown off the Universal Voice page for spouting bullshittery, is now pushing bogus Swiss Indo prosperity funds. Except according to, yet again I'm going to give credit to Anna von Reitz, Miss Courier has a penchant for changing her name frequently from state to state, and has quite a list of criminal activity from all accounts. So don't be surprised if she has been or will be arrested. There's good people in the agencies who've had enough of these clowns destroying the alternative media and people seeking the truth. So, in light of, on Monday, I will have spent 4 years being a radio show host. Yes, except I'm not part of the loop. Where have we come in those 4 years? Well, we spent a lot of time weeding out the ones who choose to take you off your path. Far more than I would have liked. The William Mounts, Tory Smiths, Jay Essex, Kent Dunn, dearie me, Drake. I'm not warning you anymore. You go your own path. But if you're going to go with Kent Dunn's, oh dear Lord, you've completely lost it. Sad. The one who knows jack shit, Courier, Danny Effin McKenney, who's also known as Denise D, as part of removing the shackles, and Lisa Harrison. They were the OPPT pushers for the alternative media, and why I've spoken up heavily against them. Heather Giraffe stays in the background, but those two were the clowns who were pushing it, being and doing bullshittery. Personally, they should be being and doing some time in jail for scamming people. There have been a lot of others that have been heavily discredited. Zen Gardner, Simon Parks, Benjamin Fulford, James Gilliland and his RV Guru bullshittery, Alfred Webber, Patty Brassard recently, Tolek, and the list goes on and on and on. Like I've said many, many times, I wish we had all those people on side, not spouting agency crap. Then we had to spend a lot of time with THI, the making sense of the programs like Nasara, Jessara, RVs, who and what are the Chinese elders and who they are run by. Same applies to the multicoloured dragon groups, of which only 3 are real: green, black and blue. The rest are bullshit. And those 3 are not particularly good either. They're all ran by reptilians. Not Draco. Reptilians. Difference. The switching out of people like Alex Collier, Tolek, Benjamin Fulford, and possibly, as I suspect, Cobra. The narrative's changed drastically. What else was exposed? Well, people found out there's more than one CIA. Not two, but three. None of which, apart from some in the first group, want anything to do with America or its people. All for their own ends, their own agendas, and their connections to NATO, Nazis, and the creation of all rogue terrorist groups in the Middle East. All of them. And then some of the bigger ones got exposed, like Stephen Greer. Bassett has kind of gone into the background now. And those two was the forerunner to the Wilcock Good Gaia TV axis of bullshittery. The interconnectedness of that particular group has yet to be fully exposed. Like the cabal, it goes deeper again. But we've also exposed large chunks that eased people's fears. The term "it failed" came into the narrative. You know, when I started, there was a whole heap of fear porn, which reached epidemic proportions in 2012. We're all going to die. It's the end of the world. Jesus coming down and going to cast judgment on us all, etc., etc., etc. Oh, and by the way, the cabal are going to be all right. They're going to go underground whilst Nibiru hits the planet. And people believe that shit. So we've helped ease a lot of people's fears. Sin was one of the memes of fear. Was sin an issue? Yes, it was. Not as much as people made out to be. At certain events on December the 16th, 2012, August, September of 2013, and the end of sin for its full purpose in August of 2015. But people said, no, Thomas, sin's going to create black holes and we're all going to die again. Well, we were right. Nibiru. You know, Mr. Collier, who I mentioned earlier, changed his story 3 times in 6 months. Nibiru, in January, Nibiru is arriving in March, early April. And I said it won't. Then he turns around and says, oh, someone took it out, so it didn't arrive. Yeah, it was taken out a long time ago. And then in September, Alex wants to sell more podcasts and says Nibiru's coming back again in April of 2017. And again, people believe this stuff. Who or what is Alex Collier? Alex has got a very strange middle name. There's not many people of that name, and yet 2 of those people have died in 2007 and 2010. So who is this particular entity? Of course, we had the population reduction. We're all going to die again. 90% of us. That was discounted on our show and Cosmic Voice. We're all still here. World War III. I've lost count the number of times I've discounted that also. Ooh, the zombies are coming to get us. You discounted that as well. So when all that failed, they thought, let's throw viruses about. We discounted that as well. H1N1 and the Ebola scare. Ooh. Half the world's population is going to die of Ebola. Yeah, right. We've had EMP scares. They all failed, didn't they? We're all going into FEMA camps with guillotines. Trains with guillotines to chop our heads, but we're still going to go into FEMA camps even though we've got no heads because we've been on the trains. Again, does it make sense? But the purveyors of fear, the clickbait for their sites, just put it out endlessly, but sadly, whilst people are more drawn to the fear rather than the love posts, that we can change. We can recognise it straight away and go, I'm not participating, and I'm not going on that person's site again until they correct what they're putting out. Blue beams coming down to get us. Yellowstone National Park is going to blow and 3/4 of America is going to die. Yeah, right. The new Madrid Fault was another fear program that got dismissed. Even wheeled out Mr. Wilcock thinking he's Edgar Casey. That's what Edgar Casey said in 1923. Not all prophecies come true. In fact, most prophecies are actual plans. Then we've had the bogus Pleiadians. I'll get it right. Pleiadians. Right, I can't say it all. Spell it now. All the lovely Pleiadians are coming to save us. But they're not. A, they're not all lovely, far from it. And B, they're not coming to save us. Sorry, Drake. Then we've had a whole heap of various false flags which have been discounted. Warned of the dangers of technology. We're all seeing the benefits of that now. Those warnings. Well, what's an interesting film? I don't watch many films, but I get called or drawn to watch certain ones. Called The Circle. Tom Hanks and Emma Watson. If you don't think that technology is already available, think again. That's old technology. For those of you who watched it won't know what I'm getting at. I don't want to spoil the plot too much. But you'll know that I've mentioned many, many times about technology and the dangers of it. Watch that show or movie, The Circle. It's all there. There's aspects of it, again, I don't want to give too much away, there's aspects of it, as always, that can work be beneficial. Become transparent, it says. Well, it's kind of what's happening now anyway, as the masks of illusion, first mentioned on this show, are all now starting to come down. The lies are being exposed. The lies we tell ourselves are being exposed. So, also what's been exposed in the last 4 years is the criminal waste and the levels of it, of the money, our money, the government and the factions waste on an enormous magnitude. So we've learnt a lot along the way. And despite having a contrary report or sitting next to on the same show someone who thought differently, particularly on Trump and voting, what has been exposed over the last 4 years, and particularly over the last 12 months, is the futility of voting for the two faces, one mask illusion of government. Like I said, I would love Trump to drain the swamp, all of it. He'd probably have to go in it himself, because he's complicit as well. So Mr. Trump wasn't there to drain swamps. He wasn't even there to win the election. Even Drake admits that now. We've learnt a lot about income tax fraud. It's voluntary. It's bogus. A lot's been exposed about the New Age bullshittery, the harvesting traps. The show's also talked a lot about weird and dark magic, how we all consent to things that we don't realise we're consenting to. Words that we all say as part of everyday life, like I mentioned earlier. Allahu Akbar. People have no idea what it means, most people. Oh, that's nasty, that's those nasty Muslims, the suicide bombers. All the saying is God is great. And yet we have politicians here complaining because of the separation between religion and politics. We all want the same thing at the end of the day. It's just the way it's ran. We've learnt about cult and occultism, the bogus macabres, symbols most commonly used by the Freemasons, that's dotted all over corporate entity. The Mobius loop. The more you look for it, the more you'll see. The hidden symbols right in your face. James Godbeer posted something this week about some trailer, and it was almost like an Indiana Jones style thing. The gods fighting, reptilians in it, Draco in it, Greys, they were all there. And then they opened the stone vault, except right in the middle was the child porn symbol, which none of us knew until it got exposed in the last 4 years. So now we're aware. So now they can't flagrantly just throw it in our faces like they used to. Channeling. Of course, channeling was banned from Cosmic Voice for a reason. Most of it's bullshit, complete and utter, and it's also dangerous for the people who are doing it, because they have no idea who they're connecting with. None whatsoever. They're pulling in astral beings. We may have a lady who has taken ayahuasca, who will be able to tell you from direct experience about the realms you're dealing with with channeling. Oh, you're fascists, you're denying us what we want to hear. No, I'm actually trying to help you. And then we had Greg Giles came forward, I think that's his name, who admitted it was all bullshit. He was tricked. We've had people on the show telling us that they're channeling Yahweh, except Yahweh is a geometrical shape. Oops. Goes on and on. ET biospheres were coming to save us 4 years ago, remember that? So we found out they were all harvesting plants for humans. Oops. We're jumping from 3D to 5D. Yeah, right. Flat Earth script came out directly from Langley. 100% confirmed. A script right out of Langley. Do we believe what Langley tells us? Which was all designed to sidetrack people and groups. Change the narrative as too many people were starting to figure out what's going on. Too many people were starting to not fall for the fear porn that our show spent many shows discounting. You heard the list I've just put out. And it's sad that so many have fell. Or, as this says in the advert, were not as it said on the tin. It is sad. But whilst we still live in a competitive and competing world that is basically killing us slowly, and we're not realising it. It's the boiled frog syndrome. I've mentioned that a lot over the last 12 months because each and every one of us has to look at ourselves. Are we comparing ourselves to another? When you've got the clown as head of CIA comparing countries, it's child's play. We're supposed to be adults. Competition leads to the destruction of human. Competition is for sport. Of course, sport is corrupt now, where it's okay to give somebody, like I follow soccer, you just sold one player for £75 million, $90 million for someone who kicks a ball round. There's people there demanding £500,000, roughly $625,000 a week to kick a ball around. And it doesn't matter what sport you have in America, baseball, basketball, it's all the money people that win the competitions. So it's not based on ability anymore, it's based on how much the owners of that corporation can buy up all the rest of the competition and turn it into a non-competition. But on our level, if we're competing, well, I'm a better radio show than him or her, or I'm better at this, or I've got a bigger house. It's all illusion. And it's all part of playing the game. The key to ending this is not playing the game. Or I'm going to go and buy iPhone 56 or whatever number it is because my friend's only got iPhone 53. Except it's exactly the same as iPhone 1. We just added a few apps that we already had at the time to get mugs to keep paying for them. Because they play that we will compete with each other and we provide it. America's not here, and the people, clowns in the government, we're not here to compete with other countries. We're here to provide the basics in life and that everyone has a fair chance. Not settled with your corporate debts, with clean food, clean air, clean water, with technology that's beneficial to humans, not counteractive. Most of the technology is involved in espionage and warfare. And he throws a few tidbits, generally for spying purposes, trackers. Some idiots in Wisconsin talking about chipping people. Hello? Well, if I don't do it, I'll lose my job. Well, if you do it, you might as well throw your life away. Because you're playing their game. So what else have we learned in the shows? The importance of shadow and inner work came in May 2015. I think we're all seeing the benefits of that. Advance warning now. We've learnt about loops, 13-year loops, 78,000 years, the Mobius, which is the loop, a trapped system, and the recent one, the 4-year loops. We've learnt about AI, Earth constructs, holographic technology, mirror tech to create illusions, and also shield predators from being seen. That was hidden from the members of the public for a long time, that type of technology, until 2013. Avatar bodies. We've learned about synthetic people. The synths, Randy. You'll get that. Living souls. Hybrids, Draco, reptilians, the Watchers, the Levershoff material, the 2 big shows we did on that, Humanity Unplugged and Humanity Unplugged 2. Covers a lot of science, covers a lot about alcohol abuse and drug abuse and how we have gone wrong, we being the collective. The Sparley shows, which I covered earlier, all in graphic detail, the levels that these clowns will go to remain in control. But the reality is they're not in control. They're in fear. People who feel the need to control others only do so because they're in fear of what they're facing. That's why the Draco controlled us. They were frightened of what we can do our abilities, our capabilities. The cabal are frightened of what we are capable of if we just wake up. We introduced the term the factions to the community. For those of you new to it, go and listen to that show. The Illuminati is no more. It's factions split into 5. It was all covered in there. Going back in November the 8th, 2015. Some at the time didn't understand it. I think most people realise how ahead of the game that particular show was. And we had the Future of Humanity show detailing the past and now and the future, whether we had one or not. At one point recently we never. We now do. We learned about parents, covens, archons, 2 worlds. More and more that was put out in detail in November. More and more are seeing it now for what it is. And this show host introduced some of his own knowledge and theories, as well as help from others, like the factions, the 2 world theory, and the full explanation of the 4-year loop that they tried to cheat. The UPU show, with the extraordinary translation of that language, was an event in itself. Members have been given advance warnings on a whole range of topics on this show, so that people had a chance, or it gave them a chance, to think ahead and process it and not completely lose it. That was why the warnings were given. I knew what was coming up, that we would get bombarded with information and it would be too much. You've got to learn when to interact and when to not. And it's always got to be processed for the benefit of you. Now, unfortunately, because of the so many clowns we've had in the community, and there's so many liars behind the scenes, corrupting even good people with their bullshit, we're all victims of warnings and dates coming and going, and the letdown that brings. And that's largely why I've avoided dates for that specific reason with this show. But I understand the reluctance of some to do the work, etc. As we've had so many letdowns of 2 weeks, or RVs coming every 3rd day, and we're all going to get prosperity packages and Treasury Direct accounts now, and Zims, dongs, dings and dungs and whatever else they want to call it. It's just never ending. And so it ultimately leads to burnout. And this is when you have to take time and take a step back, myself included at times. But are you the same person as you were 4 years ago? Do you feel you have developed? Have you learnt discernment? Have you learnt more about yourself? That's the ultimate goal of this show. Always was. And we also had a bit of fun. We learnt new words that surprisingly caught on. Rather well bullshittery. You'd be surprised how far that went. As I was. And you can add in clowns to that. I know some of you loved that one. And the RV regurgitated vomit. So we have a bit of fun along the way. So we kind of went from UV to CV, but not to RV or TV, and now on to THI. And this 4-year journey, I could literally write about 5 books, maybe more, of what's took place over this last 4 years. But we also lost members along the way. People who've passed far too soon, like Martin Jones, Rodney DeLoach, Pat Johnson, and others. And it's not easy doing this stuff, trust me. Some people seem to think it's rather glamorous, but you're always there to be shot at. You have to be right every week, or most weeks, because people will always look for faults. But then I've always been prepared to hold my hand up if I get something wrong. That's the way it should be. Information changes on a day-to-day basis. If you're going to stick to the lie, the only person you're lying to is yourself. So you're always here to be shot at. And I expect all the radio show hosts who put out information feel the same way. Except in one particular case, I was threatened to be shot at and taken out permanently. You know. But that's the price of telling the truth. Being honest. Standing in truth, honour and integrity. The people who sent that death threat operate in none of those three. Never have, never will. And it's kind of massively time consuming, and you don't get any pay for doing it, but you get plenty of rewards. Well, I do anyway, seeing people develop. And it consumes you. Well, Randy feels the same way. 24/7, and I mean 24/7. Downtime, for me, there's very little. There's always the brain working, thinking up ways how to improve things, working out how to solve problems on a micro and a macro level, on the ground and above and below. And for many, the show ends this evening, but the next one starts tomorrow morning. The preparation, anyway. And it involves dealing with various people, various time zones, various cultures and various backgrounds, which just enhances my understanding and a greater clarity. Now, I've managed to do it by keeping one step ahead. I've tried to mention a few times about trying to see things from an overview. Don't get mired in the midst. I've kind of got enhanced wisdom, and I pick and choose when to battle and when to not. You can't win all battles, but you can lose many battles and still win the war. And it's also about picking the right time to deliver information, and how it's delivered, I feel, is important, particularly in light of what took place this week. By judging the mood of your listening audience and the members. It's like the Svarley show. People were rocked to the core from the first Svarley show. So I chose not to do the second one straight after. I gave people a chance to process. And then we go again. This is important to grasp that sort of information of what we're dealing with. Now, I'd like to thank many people for my development on my 4-year non-looped journey of being a radio show host. And unlike some others, I was not given scripts, program downloads, not part of the cabal. or part of the programs. Just basically done a lot of research to get where I am today. Many thousands of hours of dedicated truth seeking condensed into an attempt to pass it on to the listeners and the members, all inclusive. That is important to me, that everyone understands what's being said. Some are quicker than others. That's just life. Some have more understanding on certain topics than others. Well, it's important that you share that information in a way that those people who are slower than you on that particular topic can at least get a foot onto the knowledge base. And I'm going to thank Drake for giving me the platform initially, Denise and Grammy also, Chloe, Tanath, and especially Sunfire. Chloe you know about, but Sunfire gave me a lot of help in 2013 to understand what I was going through, what I'd gone through, and what I was experiencing and experienced. It gave me a big leap forward into a different world, in essence. Andrew Simmons. Yes, that's you, Andy. You'll freak out now. All provided support and knowledge. New admins. I'd like to thank Holly. Holly's been there right from the CV days. James also. James Godbeer. And Victoria. Yeah, Victoria, our famous chat person. And unfortunately recovering, and we wish her a speedy recovery with her leg and foot injuries. The website support Michael Jokin, hope I've said that right. Michael, anyway. Support, knowledge, friendship and advice from Randy Morgans, Shane the Ruiner, and I want to thank Alan and Steve from the OYM as well. They've been a big help of getting the message out and the efforts that they put in. And special thanks for the foundation people for their knowledge and support. It's been extensive. So we've kind of learned there are no easy paths to the enlightened or the so-called golden age. It takes a lot of hard work by the all. There's no ETs coming to save us. No government was ever designed to save the people or particularly do right by the people. The sooner we realise that, the better. We have learned how to better discern. This group has learned how to be more caring, more sharing, more supportive, more empowered, and a better understanding of who you are and the world around you. That is a summing up of the last 4 years. I want to thank you all for listening in and staying with me in some difficult times. And this next song is, might say my, but it was also our way.
Let me do a song that's one of our favorites called My Way.
Hi all and welcome back to the final portion of tonight's show. That was quite a list. I was kind of staggered myself, the amount of names. I could have gone on with a whole heap more names, but that was enough. And like I've said many times, I find it sad. And it's something we had to correct, because you can't go forward with the truth with it being interspersed with a whole heap of bullshittery, all designed to take you off your path. Knowledge is what's been denied to us and kept in caves, bunkers and AI machines, psychotic at that. So we don't find out who or what we are or what we're capable of. I hope I have played a large role in getting you all to recognise that. I'm not the only one. But we can't walk the lonely path, which we all have, by seeking out the truth with clowns on side street corners pulling you off that path, which leads back into the matrix of lies and deceit. Keep going. Times are difficult. We all have moments where we think, why have we done this? And the reason why is we need truth, clarity and freedom. Genuine freedom. For the benefit of all, not the select few. In essence, us in the Western world have had it a lot better, but in some aspects we've had it a lot worse. That type of nonsense has to be stopped, and it will. For all the negativity of exposing certain people, there's also removing the negativity of the fear, the programs. Programs are far more extensive than people realise. Technology is far more extensive than people realise. Once you get a grasp on those two, then you realise where we have to go. You can see and face the enemy and then correct your own behaviour. I opened up the first show in May of THI last year with the term think and act different, because you can't carry on thinking and acting in the same way and expecting change. Can't keep thinking that this time the Republicans or this time the Democrats are going to be something different. They're not, and never will be, until we the people interject and say, we've had enough of your style of control. We're going to look after ourselves. And that's where we have a problem at the moment, is because too few exhibit personal responsibility. It's easier to get somebody else to fix it for you, but it's not. It's damaging. You know, you can't take the old adage, oh, it's just little me, I can't take the world on. Nobody asked you to take the world on. People are asking you to take your world. You stand in your own truth. You act and be unto others how you would expect them to act towards you. The golden rule, as Drake used to say. It's all very simple. And stop competing. Right, we're going to go into some questions. I'm going to read this out, as I missed it on the emails, and it's from Holland, and it kind of fits in with what we've been saying. These shows really resonate with me, and every week I'm looking forward to listening to it. As you do yourself, I was and am always looking for real answers. Your show helps me to connect the dots of various topics. If it comes to the banks in the Netherlands, we have the De Bilge B initiative, the Happy Bank. Once the financial system is fair and people don't have the financial stress which they now have, we can get a better world very soon. Here, here. And in my life I did several yoga based courses as well as studying human design, the Mayan calendar, and these are all pieces of the puzzle, never the complete truth. But I've always had a huge resistance when it came down on what to eat and which exercises you have to do. Because if you don't do this or that, then... So there was always something I did not like in both. That's because you are different. It's like parenting. You can't give new parents a book. There's guides and the obvious basic one. But parenting should never be done out of a book, because each parent is different. So people have to do what is best for them, and thankfully this person seems to be on course with that. Of course there is a certain truth in both, but of course it's not for everyone exactly. I recognise that if you discover yourself in normal daily life, the growth is more stable. Yes, it is. Still, I am, despite sometimes eating some meat, sugar and drinking some beer, hypersensitive and feel immediately if something is true or not. As you say, always look at the dark side in yourself that makes you understand yourself at a deeper level. I practice this during the day at my work, sports, etc., and this really helps me. Thanks for that email, because it shows that you are gaining an understanding of the self and how you interact with it. So that was Morris, I think it was, from the Netherlands. Now this is an appeal, but I don't know. Contrary to what some people think, I don't know, don't have the answers to everything. But somebody sent me this email, and I'm familiar with the person and their plight, and I'm hoping somebody will post something on either the Facebook and or the MeWe page. And this person is struggling financially and is looking into filing bankruptcy without getting an attorney. Person goes on, it's a scary proposition to go through it alone, but I have no funds. Do you know anyone that has filed bankruptcy by themselves that would be willing to give me some advice? I'm poor enough to file Chapter 7, and it will also take care of a couple of years of alleged IRS debt. So if anyone's got some real advice on that can help one of our members out, please either contact me in private message on the Facebook or the MeWe, and we'll see if we can help this particular person. Thomas, I have a few friends that did the SS thing to pay credit cards, mortgages, bills. I don't know whether I mentioned this last week, but it's worth reiterating. And I am worried about them. Please tell me they won't be arrested for doing this after we've been screwed every way imaginable. Well, Heather and Juicy Giraffe is the example of it. You know, it's all very well. You know, there's a basis of truth in all of it. The Nasara, although it's largely to do with stealing farmers' lands and resources of it, the original Nasara. And as I also understand, there is a fund. It's not called Nasara, but it's something similar. It's a trust fund. Now, the birth certificates has been covered extensively by many people. And is it valid? Yes, it is. But do you think that these people are going to allow us to do it the way we want to do it? I mentioned this last week. The key to doing it is a whole town does it. Are they going to arrest the whole town? Going in like header, they'll pick you off. That's the way they operate. But if everyone turned round, unity in the community, as some of the plans keep mentioning, but are only there to unify themselves and bugger everybody else. That's the way you do things. That's how India brought down the British and the Dutch control system. Non-compliance. All down tools were not working in your system. Didn't take any violence. And by now, after 4 years, if we had a proper community, which unfortunately we've not because of the clowns infiltrating in it, and the bullshitters, the gurus, who are all in it for putting money in their own back pockets, we could have had a consistent movement to say, you know what, all of us are going to file for this or that. They'll pick off a few individuals here and there, but they can't pick off people en masse. And that's the only way to go about these things, is to do something en masse. The classic is I've been told to be quiet about it. But the head of the IRS himself in the Senate turned round and told the Senate, Congress, income tax is voluntary. But you try telling them, to the Gestapo, who come round and threaten to take your house and forfeit your pay and everything to pay them back. It's one thing laughing at the other. How can it be voluntary if they're issuing threats to people? But if they're issuing threats to one or two, fine. But they can't issue threats to all of us. And therein lies the problem. It's like the scheme I came up with of $1, 10% of American adults, $1 a week or $1 a month, if that's all you can afford. It'll take us out of debt within 2 years. But people are waiting for RVs to pay out for some bogus currency that, let's be honest, 5 or 6 years ago, if someone said to you, what's the currency of Iraq or Zimbabwe or Vietnam, no one would have an answer. But suddenly these are the saviours, and we're all going to be multi-millionaires from currencies we'd never heard of 6 years ago. So there's elements in those accounts that are valid. And what I had issues with OPPT is they were trying to, and what Cindy Courier is doing, she's just as bad, if not worse, because that's a criminal bar none, that, the smiling assassin I call her. The plot is you hand over your whole estate, but you don't think it's worth that much. And Swiss Indo, who are off-world traffickers, will give you $1,200 a month. Now, some people, that's an awful lot of money, and will take it. And I understand that. I could do with an extra $1,200 a month. We all could. But your estate is worth multi-millions. the reality is we're not going to get paid out on it. No matter how much we want it or how much it belongs to us, it's not possible to pay out. It's just not. Suddenly everyone's got millions and millions of dollars. Society, the way it is now, will fall apart because we're enmeshed in the consumerism and competition game. We worked out there was another particular plan of everyone would get $10,000 to $50,000, but the cabal got control of the collateral accounts. For those of you who remember from 4 years ago, within 6 months, bear in mind the cabal have none input into those accounts anymore. They're not allowed to borrow from it. They're not allowed to claim money from it. They're shut out. This is why we have an economic crisis. The cabal offered $10,000 to $50,000 per person, and most people would have took it. Let's be honest. Within 6 months, every single cent would be in the cabal's hands again, including all the collateral accounts. This is what we're trying to avoid, and Yvonne writes, to give her credit, I don't agree with everything she says. She did warn Heather. She didn't listen. Because Heather wants to be the one. OPPT and Swiss Indo were basically claiming your estate for themselves and giving you buttons in return. That's what they're doing. Be careful of the short-term inducements. This is what we've warned about over the last 4 years. Yes, many of us are struggling financially, but throwing little tiny carrots at us while they collect the whole lot is not the way forward. It's just not. I would sooner struggle for the rest of my days to ensure survival for the next generation and the next generation after that, because if they get control of those accounts again, we're all doomed. Think beyond the monetary gain, because that's how they've always pulled us back into the game. Here are Mr. Blah Blah, have a nice title. General such and such, here's a couple of million dinars. That'll be paid out 30 to 1. You'll be a multi-billionaire in 2 weeks. But it never happened, did it? Because thankfully there's sufficient in the community who think long term and protect for the all and see the games that they've been playing. And Heather, OPPT, Danny, Lisa Harrison, Brian Kelly and Cindy Courier are trying to scam us out of our rights again. An acquaintance of mine said, it's our job to anchor heaven on earth. Is that what is your understanding? Heaven is within all of you. It's a state of mind, not necessarily a place, although there is a version of heaven and there's a version of hell in the astral realm. But in essence, it's a state of mind. So you have to anchor that to the earth. So in essence it's correct. But don't believe the religious version where it's some sort of judgment or tribunal, as Mr. Tellers told us this week. The only judgment of you is by you. Not some God sitting in a cloud or someone at pearly gates. You. Heaven is a state of mind. What do you think of the concept of use your life to prepare for your death? Or in other words, once we are free, thoughts become actualized instantly. Be careful what you wish for. No. We're not using our life to prepare for death, because there is none. That's part of the illusion. It's just a new beginning. More and more people are reviving old memories. Some of the memories are coming back that have been taken away with the various memory wipes that the clowns on world and off world have prepared for us. Life's supposed to be about learning and enjoyment, not strife, poverty, war and violence. There's an old saying, you're born, you pay taxes and then you die. Or paraphrasing basically. No, that's their way of thinking. Born, you learn, you progress, and you get enjoyment out of life. In harmony with yourself, people around you and nature. All very simple. Yet suddenly this planet's turned into almost a version of hell. So once you are free, thoughts become actualized instantly. Not in this realm, it doesn't. 3D takes a lot more time, in inverted commas. But a collective can make things more instant. So yes, you have to be careful what you wish for. How does this relate to the big treaty disclosure you shared some time back? Is this just one of many Commonwealth countries which took back their sovereignty in this way, or is this more 2013 cycle rinse and repeat? I haven't had time or chance to look into it, but there's a number of countries who are following the blueprint laid out by Kingdom of Mana. We may, depending on time of both parties, have a representative of the Kingdom of Mana and also the Foundation people, hopefully next Tuesday. It just depends on time. There's a lot of fun and games and heavy negotiations, some of which I can report are going well, with the big hitters, with the clowns. So if time allows, we will do a show on Tuesday that's going to explain everything to do with the Kingdom of Mana, how it was done, why it was done, what it entails, who's what, when, where and why, and hopefully that will stop people having a certain mistrust of it. And that's understandable. But it should be a rather interesting show when it goes ahead. So it's in planning. It's just there's a lot of meetings going on at the moment. I'll tell you what I didn't do. I didn't do the one piece of intel that I had. Of course, you remember about 4 weeks ago I posted the intel about them trying to empty the Chase Bank of all of its assets. Of course, Chase is cabal. You all know that now. The 5 banks in America that are run and operated for and by the cabal. In fact, most banks are, but some are worse than others, as we know. And then you got the same 5 in Britain. And that failed, as it was blocked. And then a week last Tuesday, they tried to empty the Bank of America. And of course, some people were reporting issues with the Bank of America, and we covered that on last Thursday's show. So that's 2 major American cabal rogue operated banks trying to be emptied by higher rogue people, cabal. Well, on Monday they went one step further and they've started emptying accounts of high level cabal people. I won't give the names. Now what this entails, and it's another sign that what I've been saying in the past is correct, is a complete sign of sheer desperation to stay in the game. I know some people go, no, they got plenty of money. If they had plenty of money, the Middle East would be flattened now and all the people would be refugees. If they had plenty of money, they would have gone into Russia with the NATO group. If they had plenty of money, they would have attacked North Korea. If they had plenty of money, they would have attacked China in the South China Sea. If they had plenty of money, they would have wiped out 90% of humanity. They don't. Reality is the brave people back in 2007 who cut them off from the trust accounts prevented all that. They're stealing off their own people. They've been doing that for a while. I reported back, was it 18 months ago? I think we were still in Cosmic Voice then, that the Queen's had all her gold taken off her. Isn't hierarchy great? Not. And now they're finding out they're not as important as they thought they were. But there's always somebody else who thinks they're the bigger dog. Maybe those people now can come and join us, negotiate with our group. You know who we are. Some of you have been to see us. Maybe you'll have a different outlook now they're stealing from you also, and realise it's not the way to be, it's not the way to go. We have a better way, a fairer way for everybody. You know where we are. I'm going to read it out, but I don't agree with it. Can we set up a fund for Org to have whatever surgery he alluded to in one of his comments on his page, and he needs it? We don't allow funds on our page. It's advertising. We don't allow advertising. You know, there's been some valid funds, GoFunds, for some of the members, but we have to be fair to all. and that's the position we took at the beginning, and no sort of allowances can be made, even though some of the people in the group I thought were rather valid cases for the fund. But Org spends too much of his money on other problems. And are we really dealing with Org tell us the human, or Org tell us the AI, or Org tell us the clone? Why would a clone need surgery? They're his words, not mine. I'm not being nasty. He told everyone he was a clone. Are we watching Sodom and Gomorrah over again? I think we're tired of watching things over and over again, and it's time we made a real change. Largely we are. Is the coming 5G system just as dangerous as being warned about? What can we do about it if so? Yes, it is. It's part of the hook into the AI system. The final hook. Try and avoid as best you can until certain individuals take over the system and change it. Why do we have to suffer these idiots in power? Everything seems to go their way. We suffer these idiots in power because it's left to a few to change it, and everything is far from going their way. Trust me on that. In fact, the reality is nothing's going their way. How much truth was there in the movie Highlander in regards to human form possessing immortality? No. Immortality is not in the 3D human form. It's in the soul. Human form is the vessel. Was the decapitation idea more truth? I can't remember that movie too much. So all I know is that to get rid of certain lizardy type beings, you have to remove the head. By email I received the message that the timelines are separating. As a result, we will see people dying, but we must understand that dying doesn't exist. They're just in another timeline. BS or true? It's actually true, as I understand it. I warned about it, the two worlds, last year, and people would start seeing it. I said people would start losing it big time. People would start seeing the difference between the peoples. It's not really just a case of awake and being asleep. There is a difference to which some of the people, in inverted commas, are operating. We're not in their world, and they're certainly not in ours. Now, the common theory is there may only be 11% living human souls on this planet currently, and the rest is all part of the holographic construct, matrix, illusion. I can't say 100% that's correct. It certainly looks correct, as I understand it at the moment. We certainly haven't got 7 billion human people on this planet. That's the biggest myth ever. You only have to do the math on that. See how many people have been slaughtered around the world. In certain countries only allowing one child, and yet suddenly their population has gone up double. No. There's 27,000 children dying per day of malnutrition and disease. But the African population goes up. Can we prove there's 7 billion people? Can they? No, we just assume, because that's what they've told us. One of the old YM lads posted about an island in the South Atlantic. People should really start looking at those islands. You'll be surprised at what you see. Islands the majority of us have never even heard of. You could have whole ET civilizations on those islands and not know. Oops. Why is Greenland covered in ice when it's so far south? Why is the whole island covered in ice? Because if that's covered in ice 12 months of the year, why isn't Canada? Some of Canada's further north. Is it engineered ice? That's the question I asked. Because it doesn't make sense that Greenland is under ice all year round. Is Antarctica under ice? Because it wasn't not so long back, despite what they tell you. Why is the mythical island of High Brazil on maps from 600 years ago but not now? The alleged mythical island. Because they've been messing with the times and their bogus carbon dating, which is bullshit anyway. More bogus science. So I've kind of apologies, I've kind of gone off the question, but that is how I understand it. Suddenly things will start drifting away. People have already noticed their lack of tolerance for people that don't resonate anymore. One day you'll understand why that is. Is Agartha our new destination for the awakened? No. Some very nasty beings down there. I'll tell you that for nothing. Mount Shasta. Let's all go and love and light in Mount Shasta. Mount Shyster, more like it. All selling new age bullshittery, whilst there's tall greys raping and pillaging humans. Yeah. Where are we next? Is there a possibility of the IMF moving to China? That was propagated in 2013, just saying. There's always the possibility, depends on how far things go. IMF, as it stands, has no sovereignty. None. They don't really have control of the cattle numbers known as national insurance and social security numbers anymore since 2012/13. IMF and the UN, both of them, as there is two, currently have no power except what we perceive it as. In reality they don't. But IMF moving to China, along with all kinds of other stuff, with what was it? The BRICS nations. Remember all that from 4 years ago? Well, they've really changed life on this planet, haven't they? Like they were promising. Again, bullshit. Is the primary reason for working on our shadow side so we learn what triggers our fears and overcome them? Absolutely. It seems it would be good to stay calm and balanced when crazy stuff is going on. That is the ultimate goal for all the members in this group and all the listeners. Stop the metronome swinging from one side to the other. Stay in the middle. Because the key is, if you're 45, 55 and you want to achieve balance, you've only got a small way to move back into balance if you sway one way or the other. If you're going 90-10, it's not easy to pull back into the balance, is it? You're too far away from the centre. So you're going from depressive to I'm the king of the world and I'm great and everything's fine. High elation and excitement. Apart from it being louche, both extremes. You're not centered. The idea of being centered is you stay calm and balanced. You don't swing from anger to happy. You stay centered where you don't go to one extreme to the other. Then A, you're not a louche farm, and B, you're in control of yourself. And C, once in a calm and balanced manner, you are able to see and understand a lot more of what's going on. Has Kent Dunn and Drake lost their mind? Mr. Dunn didn't have one to begin with. Drake, dear me, I'm not defending him anymore. I've told him many, many times about his discernment. If he thinks Kent Dunn is the answer to everything on Intel, then no wonder 2 weeks is wrong consistently. I'm lost for words. I find it sad again. I like Drake, despite what some people think. I do actually like the man. But too many times his discernment has ran amok at a cost to the listeners. Now, I defended him 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, which was twisted into something else which Drake retorted on the radio. But it wasn't what I said. What I said was, if the clans who are feeding Drake the intel are feeding him bullshit again, we will have our day, mark my words. Because whoever's feeding Drake again is the same clowns from 4 years ago who made a mug out of him. They were Drake's words. I got fed a lot of bullshit between 2011 and 2013. So I'm not saying anything different to what Drake said himself. But if he thinks going on Sam Muggsy's show with Kent Dunn is the way forward, then I can't help him anymore. I just can't. Sometimes you just have to let people go the path. But Drake's been let down badly, and that's why I kind of feel for the guy in many ways. The Rick Lights of this world promising him the toy soldier militia would be ready. I'll be ready for you, brother. And then when Drake asks for his help, oh no, that's illegal. Not doing that, it's illegal. Drake's made calls, many calls for people to support one action or the other. and he got left swinging every single time. But you're going to lose all respect, Rick, if you're going to go in with Kent Dunn. Dear me. What next? William Mount? Well. Thomas, can you discuss the Sangreal further? Well, that will be for the up and coming show. All that will be covered. 85% of humans have Rh positive blood that they use monkeys to dilute humans. There was a lot of dodgy genetics going on, and where we've got genetics from 24 different ET species. Somewhere along the line it may have involved apes, but not in the manner that the scientists are telling you. Most of our DNA is not from here, particularly the white, black and yellow races, because we went from here. Right, on that note, I think I'm going to end. I can't believe I've done 3¼ hours tonight. I thought it was going to be a shorter show, but we've covered a lot more than I thought I would, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. All being well, I've still got to make final arrangements. We will have a person by the name of Willow, who's not a regular on the Facebook page, but I've read some of her posts or emails she sent to me out. A prolific writer, has a great understanding of consciousness, ayahuasca, going within the self, dealing with the shadow side, dealing with the demons, etc. So that should be a rather interesting show on Sunday at 4:30. If not, I will bring the next guest on, and we'll rearrange Willow for another time. But I think it should be okay. So we've got 3 others lined up after that, and it appears that you all seem to have liked the 3 guests we've had on recently, or to date. Ramona, Dave B, and rather bright and well understanding younger member, which is encouraging. There's a lot of older members in THI, which is what I told Org. It's not as easy to grasp things as you get older. We all know that. And he should have made allowances. Sadly, he chose to ignore that. So it's interesting that a young man like Patrick has learned so quickly at such a young age in such a difficult environment, and it's credit to him, and hopefully he will then go on with others in his age group and teach the right way. So if you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. You are a multi-dimensional being operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved, and you are not here to be abused or to compete with your friends, family or neighbours. Please stop doing that. It's killing us. You are here to be the best you can be, and do so as a crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are, and excel in yourself, and in doing so inspire others. And remember, everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Funny that, isn't it? What are we going to end on? Given some of the rhetoric this week of AIs and whatnot. Welcome to the machine. My name's Thomas Williams. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Bye for now.